Hello everyone, this is the El Dorado Fortress from the LEGO Pirates line. This came out in 1989 and I'm reviewing it now on behalf of and thanks to Beyond the Brick. Yes, that Beyond the Brick, the Hanlon brothers, who chose for me to buy, build, and review this for all of you as a Patreon top tier reward. Big, huge, tremendous thanks to them for their support. Let's take a look at this set. In spite of the impressive size of this entire set, it only has really two side builds in the form of these two dinghies. They're pretty simple, but we'll look at those up closer. But look at this selection of figures, though. That's impressive. We'll also look at those up close, but first I want to focus on the main thing. The core of the build is a very large, specialized 3D base plate that takes up probably about 2/3 of the total volume of stuff that you see here. It's a technique that was long ago rather common with LEGO, especially during this era right here, but it's not used anymore as LEGO has shifted more to just using their standardized pieces and making you actually build up terrain. But as a result, we have not gotten as much terrain lately, have we? Nor have we gotten structures quite this significant, just in terms of total amount of stuff to play with, you know, the total impact for a child to see this, the total amount of spaces that the brain can go around and use for imaginative purposes, to tell stories and to have battles, to move people around, to do whatever you want to do. You know, it's good in its own way. It's just very different from what we do today. Starting from the lower front, there's a waterside walkway that's part of a pier and dock setup that actually goes down lower to the ground here and gets you right down by the water where you can bring a dinghy up or something. You know, a smaller landing craft would land right here. And then if you have troops on it or if you have cargo, there's one other thing you can do with cargo. I'll show you a little bit later on, but the main thing you do is take it up this ramp. So this is all specialized. This is all that 3D base plate. You can see it goes all the way up to this level here, and it's just completely smooth. And then there are the main doors or the main gates right there, which can open from the other side. These are a little bit loose. The joints there are just a little bit loose these days, but you see it goes around a corner to the side, but I'll just stick around the outside for right now. Again, there's not a whole lot that you can do around these parts, but check this out. The set used printed parts. Yeah, no stickers here. That's all printed. It's kind of deluxe, you know, to show the outer, it wouldn't have been stucco at that time, whatever material was used at that time to cover up the outside, so a little bit of that is worn off. It gives a nice effect. I like that. More of just the same around the side, but the single tree, the lone palm tree, a little bit of natural life here. This has the flexible pieces that you could bend all around in different ways. It's a little bit of a shame that it's off to the side. Of course, it is LEGO, so you could, you know, move this around to wherever you want, but just continuing this around all the way to the back. Well, yeah, again, more of just that continuous piece, that big 3D base plate, but the rear of the place is defended. So there's a nice little rifle emplacement there, you know, so you can get a little bit of viewership around the back so you don't get snuck up on by any of your enemies, and plenty of windows there. This is actually a jail cell. We'll come back to that when we start looking at the interior. This little step isn't used in this particular build, but it's certainly a useful and usable thing. Basically anywhere you have studs, especially at least 2 rows, it's very usable. I find that these are not the greatest things to connect to, just generally for custom building and for attaching to things, for expanding things, because you only have that single row, which means things will disconnect easily. You need to connect to something else, which is exactly what they've done here for these piers. They connect inward to the top row of studs. So that works really well for this tower here. Again, a little bit of defense along the side. So you can put a rifle there. It can also be, or not a rifle, but you know, a long gun there. It can also be rotated because it's only connected with a single clip piece, a modified plate. Let's get into this. This is interesting. It's not as good as it could be, but it's better than it needs to be. This is connected all the way back here with this string to this other tower up on top, so this can be used as a lookout as well. This crane system here. But here's what goes on with this. As you rotate this, it's actually on a small 2x2 turntable. The string is not in perfect condition right now, but as you rotate it, the hook at the end goes up automatically. It's a nice little bit of geometric trickery because like this, the string is almost completely straight up and then straight back to the rearmost attachment point. But as I turn this, there's a little bit of overlap. There's a little bit of extension behind the point of the turntable here. And as a result, the string has farther to go on its path. I'll illustrate it with this little cargo sling, which right now has a treasure chest on it. I'll show you what's inside there as well. But just as I turn this thing, it's going to start to lift up. Now, it does need to be helped maybe a little bit. No, it's starting to lift. It's starting to lift on its own. The idea is that you'd be able to bring something right up to here. It got a little bit caught. There we go. Yes. See, it actually lifts the cargo up. And now the hook has let go, which is pretty perfect. That's exactly what you want. Now, if you want to lift this all the way up inside of the fortress, then you do need to use your hands a little bit. You can help with the string from behind. I'm just going to grab it from right here, but there is enough room for this to get over the small wall there and to go into the, the inner courtyard, I guess, of the place. But again, that's just nicely done. It doesn't require any special mechanisms. It's just because of the distance between the axis of rotation here and this eyelet at the back. You can even make it a more significant difference by placing the arm a little bit farther back. It won't extend out as far beyond the fortress, but it'll increase that effect. So you can see that the string has to be tightened up as it gives a little bit, and then here it tightens itself as it reels itself in. But this brings us right back to where I started at the beginning of this walkway pier thing. But this time, instead of going left, I'm going to go up. So it's the other direction where minifigs can go up the stairway here. It's just wide enough for their feet, but once you get to the little doorway here, it's not quite wide enough. You have to, turn them sideways. There's actually a clip inside of there, a couple of clips, in fact, where you can put minifig accessories, including weapons that can be grabbed, in case of an emergency, in case of an attack or something. You got some torches on the walls there. Another printed piece here on the side, not the same one that we saw earlier. This one's a corner panel with this similar type of brick style printing. I'll show you the center of what I call the courtyard. I don't know if that's the appropriate name for this, but I'll show you what's going on in there. But first I want to bring you over to this cannon. It seems, I am not a scholar on this stuff. I've not really researched it, but it seems to me like there are three major types of cannons that have been made. I know that there was a regulatory issue, I think it was in the United States, where they couldn't sell the spring-loaded ones, at least for a time, where you'd pull back on the end of this bulb back here, put a 1x1 cylinder in there. You can see a couple stacks of them back here in black. Put a 1x1 cylinder in there, pull this back, and then let it go, and it would shoot out. I think it was in the United States that they weren't able to get approval to sell those because there was concern that those would go straight into kids' eyes and hurt them. But this one right here is not from the US market. However, it also does not have a spring in it. And there's another one in this set that also doesn't have a spring in it. I don't think it's just broken. Those things could get broken over time, but it seems to be designed this way with a stopper where all you can do is put a 1x1 cylinder in there with an open stud and then tap this from the back. And it'll just kind of kick it out a little bit, but it doesn't have much force. I'll need to look into that a little bit more. But each of these bases for these cannons has two minifig accessory clips. So you got the plunger over here. I think this is just intended to be exactly what it looks like, just a saber or something. And then in the middle, there's a big pit there that you build up upon, and this can be lifted up. This whole top can be lifted up, and you can use that for, let's call it storage, shall we? Yes. That's your storeroom. So you would put, grains and sacks of dried beans and such down there. Totally not a place where you would put prisoners of war or anything like that in just an effectively bottomless pit, because they're never going to be able to get out of there unless you throw a rope ladder down to them. There's no rope ladder included in this set. I'm just saying it's not a good place to put human beings, but I think the intent there is that is where indeed you would put your captives if people are trying to attack this place. But yeah, you could use it as a storeroom if you want. I think nowadays LEGO would probably call that a storeroom. But then there is also this. So you call that the dungeon, and this is the jail off to the side. So that door is actually kind of stuck in there right now. Sorry. Thought it would open more. There we go. Got it open. It's a wide door. One of the wider doors that they've ever made to go with minifig, including sets. And, you know, there's nothing inside of there, but there's plenty of space, so you could definitely put your captives in there in possibly slightly more humane conditions, maybe. But this door, see, it automatically almost wants to close, and it also has a nice little clip behind it that's a unique style that's not compatible with any other regular pieces that will hold it closed. It kind of feels good, you know, it kind of feels right. You saw this earlier. There's not really anything to this, just a place where you can put minifigs to be looking out. Did you see this before from this side? There's not really any space to put minifigs up here either. You can just barely put one on the other side down below here, but then just kind of looking directly at the back of the thing, and that just looks awkward. So, you know, do what you can do, but back in these days, Lego was not so great. And going all the way back into the 70s, Lego was not so great about giving minifigures places to go. This is considered an ample and generous balcony, on the other hand. It's nice to have this fingered hinge set up here for a long gun. You could also, let's see, if it's all the way up, then you can rotate it. There we go. If it's all the way up, then you can rotate it. But as soon as you angle it down, then you get stuck a little bit. But that's nice. You know, it works well enough. Another print back here. That looks pretty good. This door doesn't seal up all the way, but that's okay. Opens up. You know, it's a nice shape. It's like a very special shape and special part for its day. And all the way up on the top. This is really for some long range defense. Another one of that same type of cannon here. And I got the type that doesn't have a spring in it. So I've come across the ones with no spring. I've come across the ones with spring, and I've come across the ones where I believe this is all one piece. It doesn't move at all. It doesn't do anything. This is a beautiful printed flag here. It's printed on both sides as well. Looks very good, very stately. And then looking around the back of the same area, inside of the uppermost room has nothing going on in it. Nothing whatsoever. No furniture, you know, not even a seat or anything. It's just that. So modify it, add some stuff in there, or just have a bunch of people meeting together, standing up. You know, there could have been a bed somewhere or a chair, a desk, something. I feel like that kind of stuff was missing. As for the dinghies I showed you earlier on, they differ only in their color schemes, which are reversed between the two, and this is the older brown color for all the pieces in this set. This is long before we got reddish brown, but also clearly the flags are different, and those are both prints, and they are printed on both sides. Once again, pretty good quality stuff. They just use fewer colors than they have available these days. Amongst the figures, this one on the left is General Broadside. Haha, Broadside, because that. However, that is disputed a bit, and Lego itself has been officially self-contradictory in the naming of this character, and it's confused with another character a number of times. If you want to look into all that, you can just Google it up, but I'm calling him General Broadside. The names were covered in print media from books and comics and such. But look at the figure, though. Look at that hat. The print on the side is pretty good, and then this add-in feather piece comes from a sprue of 3 different pieces. I'll show you the other 2 options that you can use. And then on this side, the hat is different. So it has the extra insignia added onto the back, and meanwhile, the torso has gold printing on it. For 1989, are you kidding? This is deluxe, absolutely deluxe. There's not much else they could have done to make that a more special figure. In the center, this is Lieutenant or Lieutenant de Martinet, also a named character. I don't think there's any controversy over that character, but also is, you know, it's pretty nice with some gold printing on the front there as well. The yellow epaulets and a plain tricorn hat. You know, just completely plain, no printing on it. You could add a feather in the cap if you want to, but you don't have to. And of course, the weapons and accessories and things could be distributed differently between different figures. And on the right is just a suggestion of a relatively generic Imperial soldier. That's just what one would look like normally while carrying, in this case, the saber, but they also have a bunch of long guns included here, and each one gets the backpack with a bunch of in universe would be a bunch of accessories and survival equipment and such, but would probably mostly be used for equipment to run a gun. Speaking of which, here are the 3 other generic Imperial soldiers in the set. They're all set up exactly the same, except I have oriented the hands differently between the 3. So the one in the center is the one that I like the most, with the hand quote unquote upside down, quote unquote wrong, which just gets the barrel tucked in a little bit next to the side of the head. Here again, using the hand quote unquote upside down, gets you the barrel in the vertical position. And if you absolutely cannot stand the idea of turning a piece of plastic 180 degrees, and you can leave it like this, and then the barrel just stands straight up. Either way, you have enough room for the figure to fit onto a studded surface. And, it's nice to get just more generic troops. It's very important and something that LEGO needs to do more of today. On the pirate side here on the left is an original Redbeard, also a pretty deluxe looking figure, specialized with the peg leg. That was a nice thing that they did. And also they gave him the hook hand. Fantastic. If he had just like I don't know, some sort of cloth piece or maybe a feather for his cap, and it would have been absolutely maxed out on what you could do with a minifigure for these days. The first mate on the right, I don't know if that's a named character. I wasn't able to find a name for that character in particular, but looks pretty good. It's especially interesting to see this belt color here. I do believe that was intended to be a unique color, a separate color from the red stripes, but I don't know what color it is. I want to say Fabuland brown, or maybe old medium brown. I'm not exactly sure, or if that's just because they've got the combination between a couple colors together there. I don't know if there's another one underneath there, but also notice he has a gold belt buckle. So again, for these days, pretty much all the figures in this set were pretty special, And finally, these are the 2 other feather pieces that I mentioned come on a sprue. So the one that was on General Broadside is just one of 3 that you would always get together. But nowadays we have just this little one that is done as a separate piece, and the other 2 are no longer made. I don't have the original box for this set, but I do have the original instruction manual, and this shows you over on the left an alternate build, at least a little bit of an alternate build. I like what they did with the crane there, because they used some of the hinge pieces to give that even more articulation, more variability. I like how this is a little bit more rectangular here, and it's still using that full 3D base plate, so this still takes up a bunch of space. It just seems to move more of the build to the left and forward. It also moves the jail cell up above, looks to be probably a little bit smaller. I might even like this better myself for play. Maybe not for display, but for play, this might be a little bit more enjoyable to use. This is just another picture of the standard default build, and the back just shows you, unfortunately, the finished thing, so we don't get any more of those original special pictures of alternate play scenarios and alternate builds. Here's a quick look at the LEGO catalog from that year, showing you all of the pirate stuff that was available. I think this was all the pirate stuff that was available simultaneously at the time. I don't know if there were any additional sets, but this is definitely the main stuff, including the legendary Black Seas Barracuda that had already been on the market for a little while by that time. But yeah, it just kind of gives you an idea of the range, and this is how they were photographing things at the time. It was a little bit dark, but they were trying to make it look like it wasn't too much in the studio, trying to do something a little bit different. You were also able to buy a pack of 5 themed minifigures for just $6 in those days is money. And over on the left, well, in the center of your screen now, the Castle Elements set shows you the nice printed parts, and also a couple of those sprues of the feather pieces, like I mentioned, in their original forms, how they would actually come, straight out of the box. In 1989, this set originally retailed for $66 US. Well, you adjust for inflation, that comes to $145 to $150 US today, which gives it a terrible price to part ratio when it came with just over 500 pieces. However, one of those pieces was a 32 by 32 by 6, looks like, 6 brick high base plate piece. So don't look at the price to part ratio in any way, shape, or form. I'd say if this was on the market today at $150, let's say, just round it, the price to volume of stuff ratio would be a little bit lacking. I think that for its day, it was well priced. Lego has always been expensive. It might even be less expensive today than it ever has been for the amount of stuff that you get, for the number of pieces, certainly. But I cannot discount the value of the amount of terrain that you get, and the amount of playability and reconfigurability from this big, huge piece, which I typically am against these big, huge pieces, but I see the value. And if I was a kid, I would have loved to have this or anything like it, to be sure. A set today would have a lot more detail, to be sure. Probably have more play possibilities. Might not have many more spaces that figures could actually go. Certainly a set nowadays would not be fully enclosed like this. I love the fact that this is an entire island. You can approach it from any angle. You can look at it from any angle. You can play with it from any angle and see closure, and enclosure all the way around. The fact that they have a gun emplacement on the back of it is just fantastic. I do wish that the default build brought the tree more towards the front. More greenery would have helped with this a lot. But for its day, no, it's really good. It's really good. This selection of figures is the most important thing. What else can I say about it? Really do wish that it had a little bit more detail on the inside. Really, really do. But overall, the layout of it is very good. It's a good parts pack. And again, the reconfigurability and the possibilities for making things different on this base plate here, including using just the pieces here, I think is very, very strong. I can only imagine how much fun play I would have had with even just this one set without anything else. So I'm very thankful again to the Hanlons and Beyond the Brick. If you're not following Beyond the Brick on YouTube, you really should be. Not only have they been a huge supporter of this channel here through Patreon, which I appreciate very much, but they're just a couple of really nice guys, and they work really, really hard, and they do a lot of travel, and they look at a whole lot of really cool stuff, and they share it with all of us through their channel. They bring to our homes some of the greatest MOC creations in the world because they go all around the world. So definitely check them out. This was a set from their childhood as well. And that's the reason that they picked this. So it really connects back to the root of their interest in Lego, or one of the brothers more than the other, but it has all come full circle. And I never would have gotten anything like this myself today. I was never personally into pirates. It just never connected with me, but I'm so happy to have had the opportunity to check this thing out, to build it, to have it in front of me. It inspires me and also gives me a better connection to this era, a very good era of Lego, and some of the parts that they used gives me a little bit more perspective on how things have changed over time for the better and for the worse, both. So just a fantastic experience overall, and I hope that you have enjoyed this look at it. Let me know if you have any questions or comments. The comment section, of course, is all for you now. So I will leave it at that and talk to you again soon. Bye for now.